There was a lot of fraud in China. If you haven't thought about it, there was also fraud in sports. On April 14, 2024, the TV footage of the men's marathon race at the 2024 Beijing International Long Distance Running Festival was broadcast. It shocked Chinese audiences. Is it possible for a marathon to be carried out this way? It appeared that China's candidateHe was actually guaranteed the champion title with the help of 3 African athletes. This has raised an uproar. In the men's group, the live broadcast showed that in the last few hundred meters before the finish line, He was behind 3 African athletes. One African athlete was suspected to have made a move at the last minute to get out of his way. As if escorted by the 3 African athletes, He won the race with a 1-second advantage. His time was 1 hour and 3 minutes and 44 seconds. 2 Kenyan and 1 Ethiopian athlete tied for second place with a time of 1 hour, 3 minutes and 45 seconds, while another Chinese athlete took third place with a time of 1 hour, 6 minutes and 58 seconds. The 3 African athletes applauded He after crossing the finish line. The incident attracted attention on Chinese social media platforms at home and abroad. Media and netizens have pointed out that the 3 African athletes in He are all contracted athletes by XTEP, a domestic sports brand and the sponsor of the Beijing Half Marathon. Therefore, the 3 running companions may be related to XTEP. Kenyan runner Willie told the BBC that the 3 of them were He's pacemakers, saying, "I didn't go there to compete." In response to the scandal, Chinese people have mocked it on Weibo. What a failure! In the future, guest actors should be trained to at least act real. There is no sportsmanship to speak of. From fake soccer to fake race, what's wrong with sports in China? I thought China only had fake soccer. I have no clue that marathons can be done this way. This will undoubtedly become the most embarrassing championship of He's career. Such a large organizer in such a popular event, they put the spirit of sportsmanship to shame and disgrace. Information on the official website of the Beijing Half Marathon shows that XTEP is the event sponsor, ranked second with Mengniu Dairy, and XTEP's advertisement is seen on its homepage. Insiders have pointed out that He is a signed athlete of XTEP. The 3 African athletes are seen wearing XTEP running shoes too. In China's business community, it's not uncommon to see businesses buying feet on marathon races. They emphasize the visibility of their brands in major races. From giving clothes to participants in the early days to offering shoes and prizes, brands cover a range of runners from leading ones to elite ones to common people. The founder of a sports event company told the 21st Century Business Herald that the shoes worn by the top 3 runners in a marathon are an important part of a brand's marketing campaign. Attention from higher executives will make marketing managers go to great lengths to implement their campaigns. There is nothing wrong with this marketing strategy. It's probably the same internationally. For example, Nike does it. After a long stretch of lackluster sales, this summer's Olympic Games in Paris will offer a fresh chance for Nike to direct the world's attention to its performance products like the Alpha Fly 3 marathon shoe, which retails for $285. According to Reuters, as well as outfitting U.S. athletes across all sports, Nike will provide kit for the athletics teams of Canada, China, Kenya, Germany, and Uganda at the Olympics. Basketball for China, France, Japan, and Spain, and athletes in breaking, a new breakdancing event at the Paris Games for Korea. The high-end shoes Nike will spotlight at the Olympics serve a relatively limited audience, but the broader goal for Nike is to sell more entry-level and mid-range running shoes. And recently it highlighted its Pegasus shoe range, which retails at between $130 and $160. Nike spotlighted its air cushioning technology, used in everything from marathon shoes to sneakers, and its knit materials that make shoes lighter.
What we learn from our best athletes, it's 10% of the athletes we work with, there is a trickle-down innovation because we're really intent and focused on making sure that our innovations work across body shapes, if we're talking running speeds, running styles, body shapes and styles. So all the products that you see downstairs are tested with our elite athletes all the way down to, people would say a 12-minute mile is slow. It's normal. It's actually the middle of the running pace. So the people who run 4, 5, 6 hour marathons, marathons get as much, if not more, attention as our elite athletes.
But what's strange about China is that the commodity chooses who the champion is. For Chinese officials in need of a patriotic boost, African friends aren't a good match. In order to secure first place, strong contenders have to be removed in advance. 2 days before the start of the race, China Jordan's contracted competitor candidateHe from Shanghai arrived in Beijing only to find out that he had been disqualified from the race. He won the 2020 Guangzhou Marathon Men's Championship on December 13, 2020. On April 12, 2024, he posted on his Weibo page, "I've landed in Beijing and found out that my entry number for the Beijing Half Marathon is gone. What's going on?" On April 13th, the organizing committee responded that he was disqualified because he was a contracted athlete by a competitive brand of the organizing committee sponsor, which exceeded the eligibility criteria set by the sponsor. The sponsor had already told him on April 9th and obtained his consent before notifying the organizing committee to disqualify him. Obviously, candidateHe didn't see it that way. In a post here, he said, "I finally got the reply from the Beijing Half Marathon organizer, and I'm sorry that I won't be able to stand at the starting point with you all tomorrow. I would like to give a final update on me being disqualified for the Beijing Half Marathon." He attached his own statement to the post. "For this incident, let me stress again and clarify, as a runner, I am here to participate in the race. I am not here for fraud, faking a performance, or looking for popularity. I paid for my plane ticket and hotel, and my time is also very valuable." On the recommendation of XTEP, a company called the China Olympics Road Running Company invited 28 athletes from China and overseas to participate in the race, including He and 4 foreign pacemakers as guest athletes. XTEP failed to clearly label the pace setters, which led to the China Olympics Road Running Company not reporting to the organizing committee and registering the 4 foreign pace setters. On the day of the race, the 4 foreign pacemakers joined the race wearing numbers reserved for specially invited athletes, and acted as the pacemakers of He at the same time. As a result, there was the scene described earlier. 4 kilometers into the race, 1 foreign pacemaker dropped out on his own. The other 3 continued to lead the race and slowed down voluntarily in the last 2 kilometers, resulting in He winning the men's championship. On April 19th, XTEP and the China Olympics Road Running Company said that they had made a mistake and issued an apology for the incident. However, the public isn't buying it. A director of the sports section of a Chinese media outlet posted a message. "If what happened at the race was a blatant fraud, the current explanation is a blatant insult to people's intelligence. In any case, in the eyes of the organizer, the public is stupid and can be fooled at will." One netizen said, "The Beijing Half Marathon Organizing Committee said it was the fault of the China Olympics Road Running Company. China Olympics Road Running Company said it was the fault of XTEP, and XTEP said it was the fault of the staff." Another netizen questioned, "Fraud is washed down to be a mistake. Is this considered admitting one's fraud?" There were more comments like, "The 4 pacemakers didn't know that they were competing after receiving their numbers? On the day of the race, they didn't realize that their numbers weren't those of the pace setters? They are professionals who got invited to the event, so they must have known that there would be unspoken rules of the industry." At a glance, it is an apology with the organizing committee tacit understanding. As the organizer of the event, it wouldn't be right for it to investigate itself. Is the organizing committee completely innocent? The organizing committee shrugged off the responsibility. Without investigating the organizing committee, how can we explain what happened? Milk industry is corrupted, food industry is corrupted, stock market is corrupted, soccer sport is corrupted, marathon sport is corrupted. I don't know what else is normal and healthy anymore. On April 19th, Beijing Half Marathon Organizing Committee announced its investigation results of the scandal amid public skepticism. The relevant units and individuals involved in the incident were penalized, and the race results of He and the 3 African athletes were voided, and the trophies, medals, and prizes were taken back. In addition, China Olympic Road Running Company has lost its qualification for hosting and operating the Beijing Half Marathon, and has been instructed to make a public apology. XTEP has lost its qualification to sponsor the race, and has been ordered to make a public apology. The announcement said that in accordance with the rules of the race, the athletes should register as runners at the event, and they can also invite special guests and pace setters. But without approval, pacemakers may not participate in the capacity of invited athletes. The odd half-marathon race can be considered the tip of the iceberg of the almost omnipresent fraud in China under the CCP regime. As the Chinese saying goes, money makes the devil turn the wheels. The CCP has taken the essence of this saying and applied it to all fields worldwide, including sports. Gold medals in sports have been used by the CCP to brainwash Chinese people over the past 3 decades, proving that the party's leadership is great, glorious, and correct, and to bring honor and pride to the Chinese nation. Based on this logic, the CCP has managed to turn even gold medals in international competitions into something fraudulent. Recently, several media outlets, including the New York Times, have reported that after 2 years of independent investigations and on-site visits to China, the doping editorial team of the German Public Broadcasting Union, or ARD, has found that there is a suspicion of large-scale doping by Chinese athletes, but that the World Anti-Doping Agency, or WADA, which oversees doping, has failed to take appropriate action. An investigation revealed that 23 Chinese swimmers were found to have tested positive for doping ahead of the 2021 Olympics. They include 2 gold medalists at the 32nd Tokyo Olympics and the current FINA Swimmer of the Year. They were all found to be positive for trimetazidine in their tests in January 2021. This is the same drug that was detected when banning the Russian figure skater Kamila. After months of silence, CCP officials offered its internal findings that all the athletes were cleared of doping, but said traces of doping were found in the kitchens of the hotels where the athletes stayed during the competition. According to the 61-page investigation report submitted by Chinese officials, they claim that the low levels of the doping drug found in all the athletes' samples proved that they hadn't taken the substance to improve their performance. Beijing was ready to clear the 23 swimmers. The CCP's official explanation for the contamination is that they conducted an investigation at the hotel where the athletes stayed 2.5 months after the competition and found traces of trimetazidine in the hotel's exhaust fans, condiment containers, and kitchen drains. They claim that the drug reached the athletes' bodies through food, but they didn't explain exactly how it happened or who put the undetected prescription drug into the food in the hotel kitchen. How did the drug used to treat heart disease get into the culinary process? Even in scientific journals, there were no published cases suggesting that trimetazidine could possibly contaminate the human body this way. The only entity conducting this investigative work on the ground in China is the Ministry of Public Security of China. It is a state agency with the power of secret police. Yet this finding from the Ministry of Public Security in China hasn't been independently verified or challenged by an international organization, including WADA. This explanation was accepted by WADA, the World Anti-Doping Agency. It accepted Beijing's decision not to pursue the anti-doping violation and avoided the usual steps of a provisional ineligibility or public disclosure. Unlike WADA, the ARD team conducted a field investigation in China. ARD received information from a whistleblower. The whistleblower said, "The whole story about the contamination was like a fairy tale to me. None of the Chinese officials' explanations were credible." ARD also provides information on the decrease in the frequency of drug testing for athletes in the 3 weeks prior to competition. This could mean a lack of testing in the critical period before competition, which could raise concerns about competition integrity or the potential for athletes to dope without detection. ARD invited a scientist to investigate this phenomena, and the experiment concluded that it was extremely unlikely that the situation described by Chinese officials would occur. His point is, the concentrations found in the Chinese lab could only have been caused by doping administered a few weeks ago. It means that such high levels of doping found in the test only indicate that the substance was likely present before the sample was collected. The drug was used weeks ago, not just recently. ARD says it needs to be clear that the outside world doesn't know exactly what happened to the Chinese swimmers, but there are major unanswered questions about the official theory of kitchen contamination given by China, and instead of fully investigating it, WADA has allowed the matter to disappear from the public eye by sidestepping normal anti-doping procedures. Travis Tygart, CEO of USADA, described the story as a shocking revelation. He described it as a sharp knife in the back of clean athletes. Under the rules, athletes who fail a doping test without mitigating circumstances are usually given a 2 to 4 year ban for the first offense and a lifetime ban for a second offense. However, at the Tokyo Olympics, the 30-member swim team sent by Beijing won 6 medals, including 3 golds. Travis Tygart told ARD that he felt that the incident reeks of a cover-up at the highest levels of WADA. Tygart also confirmed to ARD that since 2020 they have forwarded several specific incredible whistleblower reports to WADA regarding alleged cover-ups of doping by top Chinese swimmers, but have been told by WADA that it has no incentive to investigate. Now the world wonders why they didn't investigate harder when 23 Chinese athletes tested positive for doping in 2021. WADA confirmed reports on April 20th this year that 23 Chinese swimmers had tested positive for banned substances ahead of the Tokyo Olympics. It said in a statement, WADA ultimately concluded that it couldn't refute the possibility that contamination was the source of the trimetazidine and that it was consistent with the analytical data in the document. The statement read, WADA also concluded that the athletes would be considered to be without fault or negligence. Therefore, on the advice of external consultants, WADA doesn't consider an appeal necessary. News of the adverse analytical findings could lead to tighter scrutiny of China before this year's Paris Olympics, where the Asian country is expected to contend for medals alongside powerhouses the US and Australia. Prior to the 2008 Beijing Games, a number of Chinese swimmers had been involved in doping cases. One of the most high-profile cases involving TMZ is that of China's Olympic gold medalist Sun Yang, who was suspended for 3 months in 2014 after testing positive for the drug. Sun said he was prescribed the drug to treat chest pain. He is currently serving a separate doping ban.